Hey, it's Heidi and Stefan. Welcome back to the Ice Cream Parlor.
Yes. This is the podcast where we talk about horror movies. And that's it, right?
I mean, for the most part.
Yeah. Nothing special. Just talking about horror movies.
Yeah.
Most people know by now, I think. You know.
I think we probably can drop that.
Yeah, we got a few in the bag. So anyways, lots of things going on. It's a brand new year. This is not our second episode, technically.
Of the year?
Yeah. We had a great episode last time with Larry Block from the Funhouse.
Yes, we did. That was awesome.
Yeah.
He was a pretty cool cat.
Yes. And, so much to talk about now. We should catch up a little bit first, I guess, right?
Okay. So Larry Block was on last week, and that was pretty fucking cool.
Yeah.
He does a lot of promotion for our stuff, so that was like an unexpected surprise. It was a nice bonus for us because we didn't even think about that. We just said, okay, well, come on, let's talk about the movie.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things I feel like you just do things because you want to, because it's your heart, your heart work. And then it just starts happening. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we got a lot of views off of that video post. So we'd like to welcome all the new listeners and viewers. And this is the Ice Cream Parlor. Please subscribe to all of our social media and to our YouTube channel and anywhere you listen to or view podcasts.
So here's the thing. We're everywhere you listen to podcasts, our audio episodes. So it'd be really cool if you guys on iTunes or Apple Podcasts can give us a rating because that will help us out a lot. And we are now on YouTube for video episodes, so you can see how much wine we actually drink throughout the show. And if you want to see what we look like.
Right.
I should have brushed my hair. I don't usually brush my hair.
I think I look the same, usually.
Different color hats.
Different color hats, different t-shirts.
Cool. All right. So aside from the Larry Block episode, which has been amazing, we also got Greg and Nicotero to start following us.
Oh, right.
Which was kind of fucking amazing. We were at the Comedy Store when I got the notification, and I think I freaked out the people that was sitting at it.
Yeah, you did. Definitely. Yeah. Well, also because...
my kids were at home.
Yeah, they had no idea. I didn't even know. I thought you were freaking out for some other reason. I was nervous too. I was like, oh my God, has something happened? Or are we going to have to deal with an emergency situation now or whatever?
I'm like, I look at my phone after the show's over and I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God.
Yeah. There was like not enough differentiation between like
good oh my God and bad oh my God.
Yeah,
you don't know my oh my Gods yet.
No. I was like, oh shit, something happened. What's going down?
So anyway, after a few celebratory drinks at the patio afterwards, we, came to terms with it and hey, Greg.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. That was a huge thing for me. Being a lifelong horror fan. It's a huge fucking thing.
Yeah. Just one thing I wanted to say real quick too. I mean, we're not going to get stuck in a negative zone, but obviously we have to at least bring some light to the passing of Kobe Bryant, his daughter, and all the rest of the people that were on the helicopter with them. That was obviously a tragedy that happened really early into the new year. We're going to try to keep a positive light going here and not really touch base on it because we know a lot of people out there have already had comments and things to say and all that. So,
well, as an LA native, it is really hard hitting. I'm not going to pretend that I am a basketball fan and that I followed his career. I know highlights, I know lowlights, but ultimately it's really sad when anybody passes.
Yeah.
Especially someone who died with their child in their arms.
Yeah.
And there was two children on that.
Well, I think there was a few other kids too.
Yeah.
But...
Well, no, I thought it was just two kids. And then there were the rest were adults. But nevertheless, it's always sad. And it's really sad to learn that he had a surviving wife and 3 other children, one of whom was 7 months old. So
yeah,
it's always sad. Here in LA, for sure, we see a huge response. Murals went up same day almost. There were vigils absolutely everywhere.
Yeah.
And our public transportation, like the trains and the buses, they all still say "Rest in peace, Kobe."
Right.
It's a huge hit for the city.
Yeah, definitely. And it's
it's a city where a lot of stuff is made. Like movies are made and deals are made and, influential people are here and such. But it's really seldom that you find somebody who has come out of LA, even though he's not from LA, but somebody who's come out from within the city and made such a positive impact throughout. I know that there's lots of stuff that has gone on through his career, but he also has that, what is it, Kobe and Vanessa Bryant Foundation.
Yeah.
And, I mean, the more you help people, the more you're going to be ingrained in their hearts, and the more the community is going to mourn you when you go.
Yeah, sure.
So therefore, I'm not doing jack shit.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Well, yeah, I think the best way for us here to move on is just to respect the family's time of mourning, and we've said our piece, and we just put it to rest, I guess. Because we're gonna go talk about horror movies and killings and death and crazy shit in these movies. So obviously,
I do want to say
we just want to
that just because we're horror fans, it doesn't mean that we celebrate death. We don't celebrate torture. We don't celebrate anybody actually hurting anybody. What we celebrate is the art that goes behind it, the ability for a director, a writer, an actor to convey an emotion, and our abilities to then feel that and experience that with each movie that we see. It's not a celebration of anything sadistic, of anything malicious. It's a celebration of the art.
Yes, exactly. So anyways, I just wanted to bring that up and, kind of put that to rest and move forward,
I feel you, homie.
Yeah.
All right.
Another thing that we did cool too was we went to that movie marathon. That was it another Cinematic Void event?
Yes.
Yeah, and we got to see a bunch of movies, but one of which was not on our list that we both ended up enjoying.
Okay, so what was it? Giallo?
I don't know.
Giallo.
Is it Giallo or Giallo? I don't know. We're going to get murdered in the comments for this one. But
it's a Giallo fest?
Remember, we're not fans. We're experts. No, we're not experts. We're only fans.
Something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
So what it is, it's more like a genre. And it is Italian kind of horror, suspense kind of thriller.
Yeah, right, yeah.
And so we went and we saw 5 movies, one of which wasn't part of the genre, but it was just fun to throw in there, and that was A Black Cat, which I didn't enjoy so much because I thought it was going to be these guys.
Yeah, I thought that too. I mean, I didn't know there was another one, and when we were going there, I thought that was part of the reason why we were going, because of the Black Cat.
But who was there was an actress from Suspiria, which was really nice.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, and then, but I was happily surprised to see the movie Torso.
Right, that's the one I was talking about,
yeah.
Torso.
Torso was really good.
Good, yeah.
Holy shit, that was a good fucking movie.
And I had never heard of it before.
It's been added to the list, or it will be, as of this posting of this episode, it'll be added to the list, but it is so good. I don't want to talk about it yet.
Right, yeah.
It's such a good movie. Also, A Blade in the Dark, that was really good. And for the Ice Cream Sunday episode for this week, that we're going to be posting at the end of the week will be just more about the fest, the genre, and a little bit about the other movies who didn't make it into the list.
Right, yeah. Yeah. What was the first one we went to go see there that day? At the marathon. I forgot. There was the Blade in the Dark, but before that there was, Opera.
Opera, yeah. Argento.
That
shit was the shit. That one's already on our list.
Right, yeah, that was on our list. So, yeah, it was a good time, and it was, fun to get out there and watch some of those old movies on the theater.
I have to pause when I write.
I'm just reading your notes. See what you're writing over there.
Stefan is...
I see. But no, so yeah, other than that, we've been having a pretty good start to the new year, I would say.
Mm-hmm. My job got me a gym membership.
Yeah?
Yeah, and I am so sore every day since I've gotten the membership.
Been pumping the iron.
I'm going to get to the chopper.
Yeah.
No, it's been really cool because I used to work with a trainer a few years ago when you and I met. And I felt so strong. I felt so fit. And the same thing that I'm telling the trainer here at this new gym, as I told my other trainer, is I like my size. I just want to be less jiggly. If my ass gets any smaller, this is over. So, but it's been pretty cool. I feel really strong. It's like a super hoity-toity kind of place, but it's really cool. Yeah. I really enjoy it. I feel so much. I feel like I'm back.
Feels good getting back in there.
Yeah.
Getting the sweat and everything.
Yeah. Like right now, it hurts if I go like anywhere but here, right here.
I have to. I got to try to get back in the gym myself
Well,
too.
so after I first started arm days, like with this new trainer, I went back to work the next day, and some guy, one of my coworkers, walked in. He's like, "Hey, you look great today," and I'm like, no, I fucking don't. I'm like, I didn't brush my hair because my arms don't reach up there right now. Like, it's just down.
He's like, brown chicken, brown cow.
No, he's like, I gotta tell her something nice because she looks like shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, so that was pretty cool. That's something that's new. My daughter is getting her portfolio ready for art school, so that's really exciting. Fingers crossed on a scholarship, because otherwise I'm going to start driving for Uber Eats or something. But yeah, I'm like really excited about that. Cool. What about you? What's new with you?
Not a whole lot. Just like I said, just been enjoying the new year. We had, fallen a little bit behind schedule on kind of getting things out on time. So we do apologize for things being a few days late, but we're still, getting the gears turning here. So, but yeah, other than that, I mean, I don't know. I've been enjoying the new year. It's been kind of chill, just, going to work, working on the podcast stuff, playing a little music here and there, just, enjoying life.
Nice. Well, that's all that matters, right? That's what's important.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so this week we're going to be discussing The Wicker Man from 1973.
Oh, wait. I haven't seen it. I was going to say I've seen this because I've seen this Nicolas Cage version, but you just said 1973. So
1973, the original with Christopher Lee.
Yes.
Christopher Lee, the end-all, be-all. He is also another...
I didn't know who he was technically. I mean, I after the fact, like by name, I know who he is now, but like, I wasn't sure who he was, but now I know, him as an actor, but I haven't seen any of his older work. So
I'm sure you have.
Maybe, I don't know, but like, I mean, I know he was
seen him on Lord of the Rings, right?
Right, and he's been in Star Wars, I think, as a character. But the point is, I don't really remember any of his older films. I only, I think, specifically kind of know him from his Lord of the Rings. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll get into that one after a short break.
He's like the Grey Wizard, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. When they do the cool wizard fight and suddenly they're like holding on to like the edge of the platform only on their heels.
Oh, right.
That's
badass. Yeah. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the movie before we take a break?
The movie is inspired by an engraving called the Wicker Image in the Britannia Antiqua Illustrata by Alet Sams in 1676, which I found online for $1,600.
Whoa, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, and here's the image.
Wait, that image?
Yeah.
The actual artwork is $1,600?
No, the book that it's in.
Oh, the book.
Yeah, but that's the image that inspired the story. And the synopsis is, a Puritan police sergeant is sent to Scottish Island village in search of a missing girl who was the town...
Keep talking, I'm just showing him the image.
Who the townsfolk claimed never existed. Stranger still are the pagan rites that take place there. Sorry, I got distracted.
It's a pretty gruesome image.
Well, so for those of you who are audio only, it is what you imagine a Burning Man effigy.
Right.
But it is filled with people inside, and the head is an actual kind of like sculpted head almost. Yeah. It looks real.
So they're going to burn all those fools inside alive.
In theory. Yeah, like you see the people inside kind of struggling and wailing. But we'll go into that later.
I wonder if actual Burning Man has anything.
I looked that up and it's not.
It doesn't have anything?
No
connection?
So the creator of Burning Man said he hadn't seen Wicker Man until after he initiated everything. So it was kind of like, here we go.
Gotcha.
But it really all is just symbolism, isn't it?
Right, yeah. This movie should be interesting.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun.
Cool. Other than Christopher Lee, is there anybody else that we know in it or not?
So there's Edward Woodward, who plays Sergeant Howie, and he was in a lot of like TV in the 80s and 90s. Oh, I want to say the 80s and 90s mostly. But I don't know any of those. But he's somebody that people know.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm not familiar with him either. But all right, cool.
And one thing to note is this movie is hella musical. Oh. Like it is like a soundgasm.
Wait, it came out in 1973, the same year as The Exorcist?
Yeah. I hope I got the dates right.
Yeah.
But it's like folk music. And so every scene has some kind of music, and the music just is really beautiful. It like takes you on this journey, and you're just as the music's progressing, you're kind of also just feeling more and more like you're one of the villagers.
So it's like the Sound of Music?
I mean, literally, but not the movie.
Okay.
All right, so let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back. And we're back. So.
Yeah.
No Nicolas Cage.
No Nicolas Cage. And
no
actually,
bees.
Right, no bees. Way better than I remember, too. Even though it was a little bit...
Way better than you remember versus...
Way better than what I expected.
Yeah.
But okay, way better than what I expected this movie to be, but better also than what I remember the remake. Because I didn't really think the remake was good. I just remember they tortured the shit out of Nicolas Cage at the end, which I've heard that they've also censored some of that in the remake. But anyways, this one was really good. Actually, the music part of it was a little bit, like, it wasn't bad, but it was reminding me a lot of this thing called Christian the Lion. It was like...
You showed me Christian the Lion.
Yeah.
It's like just a lion that's being raised by a family in the UK.
Yeah. A lot of people saw this video clip because it was like matched up with the Whitney Houston music from The
Bodyguard?
Yeah.
So...
And...
Christian the Lion, is that it's from the 70s, but what was that? It was
like a real documentary of some people who bought a lion cub at a fancy store in England, and they raised it until it got too big, and then they had to ship it off to Africa to stay with a caretaker. And then they didn't see the owner for so long because they weren't visiting it all the time. And then years later, after the lion was grown up, they're reunited, and then that was the thing that people put the Bodyguard music to, is when the lion runs up to the guy and they like give a big hug and everything. But in the actual movie, which I own,
of course you do,
there's all the little in between. The full documentary, the full movie has this, one of the narrators singing a lot the whole time, and it's singing a very folky, classical kind of guitar songs. And this one had all of that, starting off with the innkeeper's daughter.
It's the landlord's daughter.
Landlord's daughter, right? The landlord's daughter.
Okay, so this movie came out the year before Texas Chainsaw.
Oh, yeah.
This is still a horror movie, but it's completely different. You don't see any actual violence here. You don't see anything grotesque. You don't see anything gory, save for a dead hair inside of a tomb,
an umbilical cord here and there. Nothing too
but
gory.
It wasn't grimy. It wasn't gruesome. It was actually quite beautiful. And the movie, when we watched Midsommar, I'm like, this is just Wicker Man.
Oh, right. It was a little bit like that. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Okay. Well, so did you like this version?
Of course I like this version.
Yeah. It was done really well. I thought so.
Well, so in rewatching it, I was just taken by how brilliant this fucking movie is. And we'll get there.
Okay.
But it's goddamn brilliant.
Yeah.
Because so anyway.
Well, let's just jump right into it then. So the movie starts off with a nice aerial shot of someone flying in on an airplane, basically, which is like one of those water landing airplanes.
Right. So The Wicker Man from 1973 was directed by Robin Hardy.
All right. Yeah.
Yep.
Good place to start.
It started starring Christopher Lee, who is a cult movie legend.
Any relation to Bruce? I guess not.
He plays Lord Summerisle, who appeared in the film for free, by the way.
Oh, really? He did this movie for free?
Yes.
Because he liked it so much?
And he also promoted it, like, out of his own pocket. And he went, and there were, like, public access channels, like, how did we get Christopher Lee?
Oh, so he was already famous.
He was like, I'm fucking doing this. Yeah. He was, like, a staple inside the horror genre.
Gotcha.
And so he also says it's one of his favorite movies that he's ever been in. And I can see why. It's fucking brilliant.
Okay.
Also starring Edward Woodward, who plays Sergeant Howie. Diane Cilento, who is Miss Rose, who's the teacher.
Ah, yes.
And Britt Ekland, who is Willow, and she is the landlord's daughter.
Yeah.
But you have to say it in an accent because I don't do accents.
The landlord's daughter. No, should be Scottish. I just did British.
Okay, do it.
I don't know if I can do Scottish.
You have to kind of Sean Connery.
The landlord's daughter. No, that's
Declan?
It's a little Irish there. I don't know. I couldn't do it. You know what? I did notice. This is just 6 degrees of separation bullshit. But like the woman who plays the teacher in the remake is actually the lady from The Exorcist.
Yes. What's her name?
Bernstein or something.
No, it's not Bernstein.
Ellen? No.
Yes.
Ellen. It's Bernstein.
It's not Bernstein. It starts with a C, I thought.
No. It does not start with a C. This is going to be like when you kept talking about Father Dyer. Which I told you guys it wasn't Father Dyer.
It was Father Dyer. Burstin.
Okay, she's bursting.
That's how I remembered. I'm like, no, but then you said, anyway. Yeah, you're right. She was in the remake. Yeah. I haven't seen the remake.
Well, anyway, I just thought it was funny because these movies, the original and the original Exorcist came out the same year. Yeah, exactly. And anyways, cool. It's also funny how both of those have a very like deeply rooted religious theme, I would say. So in 73.
What movie? And there's some movie that talks about how certain eras horror movies reflected what they were actually scared of in that time.
Right, yeah.
I don't remember what that was. But do you remember that a few episodes ago, I think I talked about the satanic panic in the 80s?
Yeah.
And it may have stemmed from all of these, obsessions with different parts. And you know what? As far as I may not be the most religious person in that I'm not religious at all, but it really upsets me a lot of parts in this movie specifically where I'm like, white man, colonists.
Sorry, you peaked
on white man.
So at some point in time when you laughed, you peaked. It like totally went red. So hopefully, maybe just. Did
you just what makes a red man red? I take offense to that.
But yeah, so sorry, I got distracted with the whole sound level.
So religion, a lot of things are rooted in religion as far as in the 70s.
I wonder if it because they just are finishing the Summer of Love, 68, 69. Technically,
69.
That was a big time where it was this big open revolution. People were running around. So you think people were
kind of like trying to get back into the straight-laced society?
Some people maybe. 70s started leading into the disco era. I think that there was a part of society that was still trying to hold on to the old ways. I mean, this guy, Woodward, the main character,
he's
officer.
A Puritan.
Yeah, he's such a
he's such a godly god man.
Right.
He's like super. Okay, we'll get into that. Okay.
But I think there was a lot of people that were still around, and that there was like a mixture of half and half. You had the young kids that wanted to just be free and get naked and dance around and take acid.
Society. Like every point in society in history, we hear about what survived through the retellings. Yeah. That's what we know, right? But we don't pay attention to the other side. We just know one set of facts, right? That's it.
Yeah.
The history of the Americas, for example, we know the white man version that was taught to us in schools. And I only know other because I had to proactively go and research it.
Yeah. I just think that you're right by saying that they probably were playing off of people's fears at the time. And that in this particular time, 73, the whole religious theme just sort of was, that when did The Omen come out? It was a little bit later, right?
Mm-hmm. I don't remember dates.
We watch all these movies, don't remember the dates. Yeah, it's too hard to remember. But anyways, I'm just saying, like, this.
Well, you know what we should do is like put a map, like dates. We should do that.
I don't know.
That way we can be like.
It's all right. Who cares? Doesn't matter. Anyways, moving on from that. The point I was just making is that there was a very close tie-in with The Exorcist with the whole religious theme going on.
Right. So the soundtrack.
Oh, the soundtrack, yeah, again, was very folky, very, like...
Peter, Paul, and Mary.
Yeah, kind of stuff like that. Which is why I brought up the Christian Alliance thing, because that's how the narrator sings the whole time. So I think it was, even though it was 73, again, coming off of 68, 69, 70, that whole hippie Summer of Love era, I think that kind of was still the soundtrack. Like, it wasn't a disco soundtrack yet. Although there's one scene where the girl was like almost metal? Doing the oh yeah, it does get metal almost a little bit, but she's also doing like a weird Macarena back when she's dancing naked.
That's a good scene. That's a powerful scene.
Yeah. So start.
So the movie starts like this.
Yeah.
There's a thank you card to fictional people of Summerisle, which is the island where this takes place.
Oh, right, yeah.
And it says, the producer would like to thank the Lord Summerisle and the people of his island off the west coast of Scotland for his privileged insights into the religious practices, for their generous cooperation in the making of this film.
Yeah. Now, why do you think they did that?
It's not a real...
Yeah, why do you think they did that, though? Like,
I think it's just to add to, like, once you get into the movie, you're like, oh, shit, this is real. Right? Kind of gives you that little bit of, ooh, wait, they did that for real? But like, is this based on a true story?
So it's like making you guess that it might be based on a true story?
Yes. It's like implied.
Yeah.
It's implied.
Okay.
I think so anyway. It's not my...
I mean, I would have bought it until...
You did.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually looked up, like, is there a real Lord Summerisle? And they're like, nope.
Oh my God.
Google.
All right. So the movie starts like this.
You said
after that.
Just kidding. Go ahead.
So the actual movie starts like this.
Yeah.
There's like this Cessna, this police Cessna.
I don't know if that's the airplane it is, but let's just say it's a small engine plane that also can land in water. I don't know my planes that well. I don't know if saying...
So how do you know I'm wrong?
Because I have a feeling that a Cessna is a particular type of plane, and I don't think it was the ones that landed in water. If somebody out there knows, let us know, but I'm pretty sure...
So there's a fucking plane.
Yeah, a tiny little airplane.
That's flying over land and sea to get to the remote island of Summerisle.
Yes.
And he lands into like this little harbor, but it's like such a rural kind of community that, you know, he lands and he has to yell over a megaphone to the harbor master that's...
Send me the dinghy.
Yeah. Will you send the dinghy, please?
Yeah. And then right away, the first guy he talks to is like, are you no. even here? Are you sure you're at the right place? Like,
he tells him no. He goes, you can't land here without permission.
Oh, right. Yeah, you can't land here. You don't have permission. Yeah.
He's like, I'm a police officer. He's like, you need permission from Lord Summerisle.
Right, yeah.
And he's like, bring the fucking dinghy.
Yeah.
But he's like super stern. He's super clean cut.
Yeah.
He doesn't curse once.
Yeah.
At all.
Right.
For this entire movie.
Yeah.
Which is very impressive.
I didn't notice that, but I don't know if anybody cursed in this whole movie. Did they?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
So we learned that his name is Sergeant Howie.
Yeah. Funny name for a sergeant. Sergeant Howie.
Sergeant Howie. And he is on the island to address a concern about one of the residents. Mm-hmm. Apparently...
It's like a missing girl.
There's a missing child, and her name is Rowan Morrison, and no one has encountered her over the past year. Mm-hmm. She's 12 years old, and her mother apparently is on the island, and her name is May Morrison. So all these guys gather around him when he gets onto the shore, and he's questioning them. Have you guys seen this? They're like, we have no idea who this is. We have no idea. Nope.
Yeah.
And they go.
He passes a picture around.
Yeah, he passes a picture around, and then he reads the letter, and he says, "Well, who's May Morrison?" They're like, "We don't know who May Morrison is," and he like shows them. Well, this is fucking May Morrison.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, that May Morrison.
Right. She's like at the post office or something.
Yeah, she has the post office in town.
Yeah.
And so he's like looking at them like, fucking dick, I just told you that.
But then they're like, it's not her daughter, though.
Yeah, that's not her daughter. Mm-hmm. You'll see when you get there.
Yeah.
So May Morrison has a post office, and in the post office, she has a candy shop. Mm-hmm. And he's asking her about the missing daughter, but she has no idea what she's talking about. She's like, my daughter? My daughter's over there. She's like this 9-year-old named Myrtle.
Did he already go straight there first, or did he go to the inn first?
He went straight there.
Straight there. Okay, mm-hmm. Right, yeah. And so, yeah, she's like, no, that's not my daughter. This is my daughter. And he's kind of like baffled at like why she would, say
so
that.
So when May Morrison goes to tend to another customer, she leaves Sergeant Howie and Myrtle together in this room in the back.
Yeah,
which is weird as shit.
Well, yeah,
and she's like painting a hair.
Yeah, rabbit.
Not a bunny rabbit, a hair.
A hair, right?
Because they made a point to say it's a fucking hair.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's asking her, "Well, do you know who Rowan is?" She goes, "Uh huh." And she confirms that she knows that Rowan is actually a hair in the field.
Yeah.
Right. And so he's like, "Wow, everybody's off their rocker."
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so he needs to go back and get some rest. So he's basically going to go check in at the local inn.
The Green Man Inn.
Yeah. Which I think that
because he doesn't want to fly back the same night because it's getting late.
And yeah, exactly. And I think the Green Man has something. It's a symbolism for some pagan type thing. I think, like in real life,
like in Moana, where the woman is an island.
I didn't see that, but yeah, sure. But I think that if you look up something having to do with pagan rituals, that the Green Man or something, it's part of the thing. I saw something on that before when I was looking at like other reviews of the movie. But anyways, so they go in and it's like a scene. Like he's baffled that like he's in this.
The locals are in there drinking and smoking and cursing
and dancing and playing
but
music.
But he walks in, silence.
Yeah, of course. Like cop walks in the room. What else are you gonna do?
Cop walks into a bar and I said, "Hey, who put that there?"
Everybody.
So McGregor is the innkeeper, and he's like, "Okay, we'll get you a room. We'll get you some food," and then he says, "Willow will show you to your space." Now, Willow is the actress Britt Ekland.
Yes,
and she is the beautiful one of the group, right? She is. The minute that you see her, it's like, you remember in the movie The Mask when he sees Cameron Diaz and his eyes bulge out?
There's a cartoon character.
The tongue comes out. Yeah. So it's kind of like that. And suddenly, all the patrons start singing about the landlord's daughter.
Yeah, because she's a dirty little slut. That's what she is.
Well, I thought I wrote the song down. But the song talks about these. It has these lines.
I remember they show one part where the old man sings and he's talking about between his two toes. You get into that part? All right.
Pretty much the song goes on about how she gives everyone a hard on. And they discuss the path between her left toe and her right toe.
Yeah.
And Howie is not amused.
No, he's not. But the dad or the
he's
landlord
does and laughing, and so is Willow. She's like, "Oh, you guys!"
And one big fat dude like starts humping her like from behind. He's like, she doesn't care. She's like, all right, whatever.
So he requests that everybody simmers down by saying, "I am here on official business." And he starts passing around the picture of Rowan again, and everybody's saying, "No, I haven't seen her. I haven't seen her." But he is noticing that there's a bunch of pictures along the wall. And those pictures, there's one missing, and it's from the Harvest Festival the year before because they're all Harvest Festival images. Yep. And the Harvest Festival images are just black and white photos with a beautiful girl who's the queen of the harvest, or harvest queen.
And then all the fruits and vegetables.
And the harvest. Yeah. And the one from the previous year is missing.
Yeah.
And he asks about it and said, "No, it got broken."
Right.
But this is where I'm like, oh, this movie is fucking brilliant because the purpose of this song, the purpose of gyrating, the purpose of everybody kind of being so sexual is to try to get him to get into like this, his next level horniness, right? Because they need him to get horny enough to either move forward or they have to figure out what he is. Like they got to figure out if he's a virgin or not, right? So they're trying to make him as horny as possible to see if he's going to fuck Willow.
Oh, okay. So that's like part of their test that they talk about later on to find out that he was the one.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
So that's what I was like, oh my God, like if you just look, there's all these steps. That's why everybody's acts so suspicious throughout, which I'm like, oh my God, it's so good.
So then just moving forward, he ends up going to his, he wants some food and, they're like, "Don't worry, we're going to bring it to you."
He has dinner, and then he's so disappointed because everything is canned.
Yeah, it's all crappy
and then
food.
He's like, "Why is everything canned?" And she's like, "Whatever."
Yeah.
And And this is Willow serving him food. And then he says, well, for dessert, I'll just have an apple. She's like, we don't have any.
Yeah.
And apples are what the Summerisle is known for. So he's like, you don't have apples?
Yeah.
So she's like, well, I can give you peaches and cream, but it's canned.
It's from a can, I bet.
And it reminded me of Kitchen Nightmares. What do you mean these oysters are canned?
Yeah, frozen. Yeah, so and he even talks about how the beans are like discolored or something like that. Yeah, it's a weird color. So he doesn't like his meal. He's a little upset about that.
Well, Willow tells him, cheer up, food isn't everything, you know. Yeah, no. You
right. Saying? She's offering herself up to him.
Are you picking up what I'm putting down?
Yeah, and so just kind of skimming ahead. So basically, he ends up wanting to go to sleep.
He goes for a walk.
Yeah, he does go for a walk. All right, and that's when he goes outside and sees like this massive orgy going on outside, right? Like, what the hell? This has got to be like...
But how does he know that it's sex if he's never had sex before?
Oh, he knows. By that time...
Do you know?
At that time, I think people know. I mean, they know enough to stay away from it.
How do they know? How do people who stay away from sex not know that they're accidentally having sex or not?
Well, you know what? Maybe he doesn't know. And maybe he thought that, like, as a child would be so disturbed seeing that happen. He probably had the same... Like
somebody was hurting...
Yeah.
Why is mommy hurting daddy?
Right, yeah. He probably thought the same way. Who knows? But
so he is walking around and there's several people just having sex outside.
Yeah.
And then he keeps walking and he sees this woman naked straddling a tombstone just crying.
Yeah, yeah. You think that was like a child or something that she lost, or a lover?
I don't think she'd be humping a child tombstone.
I don't know.
I would hope not. Why does your mind go to child?
I thought she lost a kid because he's there.
Because she was humping tombstone and she thought she'd find him there?
You're right. I don't know. I don't know why.
Doesn't it make more sense for it to be, I lost my husband, let me hump his tombstone, versus I lost my child, let me hump their tombstone?
Yeah, I think you're right. You're right. I don't know.
Let's explore this.
I thought like he was over there searching for a missing child. And for some reason, I thought at that moment...
that the mom was actually humping the tombstone of the child?
You're right. It doesn't make sense. I just saw naked ladies.
So your mind just like, what? Sorry.
Logic went out. Yeah, logic went out the window.
Okay. Back at the inn. Mm-hmm. Howie goes directly to his room.
Yeah, he does. He's like, I've seen enough of this filth. I don't want to have any more.
He does his nighttime routine and he writes and he prays.
Yeah. And they have a flashback scene of him like in a sermon or doing something where he's like, he's at church. And so that I think sets
it's to show us that he's deeply devout.
Yeah, he's a devout, what did you call him? Did you say
Christian?
He was, oh, right. We don't know. I was about
to call
him.
Full circle.
Christian the Lion. Oh, and this movie started off saying it was a British Lion Productions or something like that. A British Lion.
All right. It's a conspiracy going on.
Yeah.
So, however, as he's praying, he's super distracted because there's music playing and there's knocking on the wall that he shares with Willow.
Yep.
And we see her. And then we see him. They don't see each other.
Right.
But she's rapping on the wall and saying, and her song is really just saying, come to me, come to me.
Yeah, and she's sitting in the bed all naked and everything.
Yeah, she's completely naked. Like, they show everything. Not really. Like, there's body doubles because she was pregnant at the time. So she was only allowed to be filmed from, like, the waist up. Yeah. And then they had another girl from town be her waist down. So that booty shot that we got and the Macarena shot, that's somebody else.
She must have been fairly...
She was like, I think she was very early.
It couldn't have been too late because she didn't look like she had a belly in any of the other shots with clothes on.
Correct. And she was hot.
Yeah.
She kind of looked like a Bratz doll, but she was really cute.
Yeah, she was cute, especially for that 1973 look that they had going on over there.
Yeah, so she's singing for him to come over, and she's doing this amazing kind of just dance throughout the
dance.
Now she's shaking it. He can't see it, but he can feel the pull,
right? Yeah,
because he's like up against the wall and sweating even.
Yeah,
and he's like, I can't. And then at one point he opens the door to try to go over, But then God said no and closed the door and sent him off to bed.
Yeah. I don't know. I've never been that horny where I've like
humped your wall.
Yeah, and like
how
fighting
about a tombstone
myself.
Of a child?
No, never. But yeah, that was real funny for me because I was like, well, he must really. I mean, I guess I don't know. The last time I remember that was like when I was 12. I don't know.
And then what happened?
You.
Okay, so but he stays strong and doesn't give in to her siren call. The next morning, she wakes him up and she is asking why he didn't come see her.
Yeah, she's like, I was waiting for you.
Yeah, he says that he's engaged to be married. And she's like, well, that's probably never stopped you before. And he goes, it means something to me. And that's what she's like, virgin.
Yeah.
Check.
I mean, yeah, I didn't even catch that that's what they were trying to test him for until later on when it became evident, I mean, I definitely, they were trying to make a point there that he's a holy guy and doesn't want to like sin, even though he's in a place where nobody would find out.
Yeah.
So
later in the morning, there's this maypole celebration going on, and all the boys from the school, like all the children, all the boys are outside doing that maple thing. I don't know what it all is about.
Yeah,
but
you're talking about that pole with the ribbons on it and all that. Yeah, and so they break out into another song.
They break into a song, and the song goes, and I will not sing it. It goes, in the woods there grew a tree, and the very fine tree was he. And on that tree there was a limb, and on that limb there was a branch, and on that branch there was the spray, and on that spray there was a nest, and on that nest there was an egg, and in that egg there was a bird, and on that bird there was a feather, and on that feather there was a bed, and on that bed there was a girl, and on that girl there was a man, and from that man there was a seed, and from that seed there was a boy, and from that boy there was a man, and from that man there was a grave, and on that grave there grew a tree in the Summerisle wood. So it's really just talking about their entire life cycle. Is you're a tree, you grow, and then you go through this whole thing of being, you die, and then you come back to be recycled. And that's really what later on in the movie they talk about is it's not about reincarnation. No, it's not about
resurrection.
Resurrection, it's about reincarnation.
Reincarnation, yeah.
Right, because they are not Christian. They are pagan.
Right.
So they're more in tune with nature as opposed to later on in the movie, Christopher Lee says, so the Virgin Mary got impregnated by a ghost. So there's obviously some very direct, like just cut-offs.
Sure. So then after he sees that scene where they're singing the song, he goes and finds a school where all the girls are. Across
the way, there's a school, a classroom where all the girls are. So the boys and the girls are separated, right. And that's where we meet Miss Rose.
Mm-hmm. They're like tapping along to the beat of the song that the boys are singing outside. And then she kind of starts to go and explain to them like a little bit about their beliefs,
Well, so... Really quick, if I may.
She starts talking about penises.
Going into the classroom, and the teacher is asking the girls, what does the maypole represent?
Right.
And the girls are kind of shy, but then finally they answer, and they said, it's a phallic image.
Yeah.
It's a symbol of penises. And that's when Howie is like, what the fuck?
What? You see his face
goes in there. He goes into the classroom, disrupts it, and pulls the teacher aside to discuss. He says he will be reporting her for indecency.
Yeah, she's like,
and
what?
She goes, I didn't know police officers interjected into the school system. They're not supposed to. At the very least, no matter how religious you are, there has to be a separation of church and state. And that's not happening in our society today or really ever.
Oh, right.
Ever.
You got real there for a second.
Yeah, I did. Because it pisses me the fuck off. I get that I'm a mutt, so to speak, but y'all came onto our land and took away our religious beliefs. Why do we have to adhere to yours?
Nobody said that you had. Well, maybe they said you had to back then. Nowadays, everybody sort of has the right to choose.
Nowadays, people are still doing it because they're still shoving this one dominant down everybody's throat. Why?
I have my own personal opinions on that. Can't
people just be people and then just...
Yeah, but there's so many... I feel like that with the population, like at this point in time right now, like they should be denouncing that. But most of the Latin American culture, Central America, South America, like everybody's like hopped up on this whole Jesus thing.
That's not true. Not anymore.
Well,
so I find that there is this.
Like basically what you're saying is these people came in, they stole the land, they made the people force and change to a whole nother religion. But what I'm just saying is like nowadays, like there should be an awakening and they should be denouncing that and going back to their old indigenous ways.
Nowadays there has been an awakening throughout different cultures, throughout different societies. Cool. Nevertheless, if I'm going, why does the word God appear on my money?
Well, that's
true. If
the
true God of this country is those greenbacks.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying in the Central South American countries, a lot of them, I hopefully.
What do you mean a lot of them, and how do you know?
Well, because like everywhere you go, there's like the Virgin Mary symbolism. There's like people with Jesus on a cross everywhere.
You go. There's also a lot of Latin Americans that are Jewish. There's also a lot of Latin Americans that believe in a more indigenous culture. So, I mean, I know specifically that I have a lot more indigenous culture in my bloodline, and we still very much do a lot of older practices.
But I'm just saying that most of the people that I've come across, they don't seem to be very much going back to their indigenous ways. I just find it funny that
I feel like
these missionaries came in and spread the word of their God at the time, and generation after generation, people who had no connection to that are still following that in a pretty predominant way, in my opinion.
Well, if somebody is in a higher position than you, and in order for you to move forward, move ahead, you have to adhere to what they're saying. More often than not, you're going to try to fall in line so that you can better provide for your family.
Yeah, that's true. I understand. It's just one of those things right now. I feel like that.
I'm not saying that it's not happening. I'm not saying that I'm not doing it. I'm saying is that it sucks.
Yeah. Well, everybody should take their culture and their own religions back and don't be blinded by the white man's religion, which they tried to spread across the world. I don't know. It happens in the Asian cultures too. Tons of Asian cultures are Christian. Yeah. And they all are about Jesus. And I used to see this, like, I had a Filipino friend growing up. I'd go over his house, and like whenever his mom would come home, the first thing she would do was go to the Jesus on a cross on her wall and say, "Oh, thank you, Jesus, for letting me come back home," and all that. And it's funny because I was like, in one way, it is like a Christian worship, but then another way, it's also like idol worship because they're praying or at least praising this wooden statue. Some religions would not agree with that at all. Like, even if they believe in the Jesus story, but you don't pray to the statue of Jesus. That's, anyways.
So, again, it's more about just live your life as a good person.
Right. Me too.
And God does not give a shit whether there's a God. If there's a God, doesn't give a shit how you're practicing as long as you're not a dick.
I just noticed that there's a lot of people in the Asian cultures and in the Hispanic cultures as well that all seem to have fallen into this whole Christianity trap. And
because our people were slaughtered.
Okay, well, whatever. We'll move on from that.
Raped and slaughtered. Yeah,
I get it, but so don't continue to follow the people that raped and slaughtered you into believing in that religion.
I don't.
You don't. I get that. But I'm saying a lot of people do. You're not normal. You're pretty unique in your own way. And that's what I'm saying. Is like, I don't.
Weird.
Definitely calling you weird.
Okay. So anyway.
Let's move on. We've got a lot to cover and not that much time.
So after he says he'll report her for indecency, Howie then questions the girls about Rowan's disappearance.
Mm-hmm. They all tell him they don't know who she is at all.
Yeah, and so he circulates the picture. And while he's doing that, he is erasing their lesson from the board just to write the name Rowan, whatever Morrison.
Yeah.
Rowan Morrison. It's like, you just erased their fucking lesson.
Well, he doesn't care because he thinks their lesson is garbage. He's like, you guys are fucking teaching, like, devil worship over here.
How dare you teach them that sex is okay? How fucking dare you?
Yep.
Spoken like a true virgin.
And so there is an empty desk in the room. He's like, that's Rowan's desk. They're like, nope, it's not. He opens the desk. And what does he see inside?
A bug, a beetle or something that's tied to a string.
That's on a nail hammered into the desk.
Yeah.
And the one girl's like, he just keeps going around in circles until he comes. And there's like, no more string left. And she laughs like, ha ha ha. And the guy's like, why would you do that then?
But he doesn't save it.
No, he doesn't save it. He just pushes the thing back down.
Like a true Puritan. I don't want to see it.
Puritan, that's the word you kept using.
He then asks for the roster.
The rasta.
For the ledger for all of the kids.
No.
And so then she's
telling
telling him, you need approval from Lord Summerisle. And he's like, I don't need it. And then he like fucking physically like removes it from her. Like, what the fuck? This guy's a dick.
Well, he is, but he's...
Like, I get that he's trying to save this child, but don't be a dick about it.
He's just blown away by this society that he's surrounded by. He just happened to see an orgy outside at night. He was like...
So he should just rub one out. What's the male equivalent to rubbing one out?
That's the male equivalent.
Well, girls kind of rub out too.
Is that where you get it wrong?
That's how I see it. Guys rub, I guess.
I don't know. I've always heard rub one out. I thought that was like a... Doesn't really make sense because you're not really rubbing per se. You're like jerking. Jerk one out.
Stroking. You're stroking. But rubbing, I always thought, Anyway. So yeah. So he goes into the ledger and then he finds Rowan's name.
Yes, he does.
And then he calls them despicable liars. These little girls. He's calling them despicable liars.
All of you. You're all liars. Like, oh, shit.
And he shouts out things like obstruction of justice.
Yeah.
Well, so then the teacher says, hey, stop yelling at my fucking children. Let's talk outside.
She takes him outside, and she gives him the lowdown and says, look, we don't talk about death or dying. We don't believe in the word dead. Yeah. She doesn't even voice the word. She goes...
That doesn't translate well on either medium that we have.
So for those of you listening, I've voiced the word dead without saying anything.
She just mouths the word dead. Yeah. She doesn't say it. And
then for you guys watching, you saw my mouth do nothing.
Fred. She says this. She says, we believe when the human life is over, the soul returns to the trees, to the air, to the fire, to water, to animals. Mm-hmm. And so essentially, she's saying that Rowan is dead, but she has begun her reincarnation cycle.
Yeah.
So he is upset that no one around her is no one in this town is learning about Christianity. And he keeps saying Christianity. And then he's like, where is, so is she buried in the church's cemetery? She's like,
I wouldn't really call it a church because no churchy things have been going on here. More pagan things, but.
Like, I don't know. But so he goes to the cemetery. And the cemetery is just like maybe on the other side of the school. And it is, it's enormous. It's open, of course. It's an open, like there's no gates or anything.
Right. He just walks right in there. You
can't go, like, I live by Inglewood Park Cemetery. You can't drive in there whenever you need to visit your loved one. You have to go during normal office hours, and they sell flowers out front.
Sure.
But it's like it hasn't been taken care of. Not the tombstones anyway, not the structure itself, not any altars that they had in place. I don't know what was supposed to be there, but it's all just...
It's just like run down and everything. But the one weird thing is that there's like trees planted over all of the grave sites.
Yeah, there's a tree on each person because each person has to be recycled, right?
Right.
And he sees the caretaker and the caretaker, as he's reading the tombstones as he's walking in, he sees one that says, here lies Beach Buchanan, protected by the ejaculation of serpents.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
I don't know. How do serpents ejaculate?
Venom? Is it venom?
No.
Like little snake cum? Do snakes cum?
Yeah, they have to.
So they jack off the snakes and then...
No, I don't know how that works. Most snakes have orgies. Well, some snakes do, I think. They roll them. There's one female, a bunch of males, and they all like roll up into a big ball of snakes.
You know why that is? So they can't pin child support on any one snake.
Well, most snakes don't care for their young. They have their babies, and then the babies just hatch from the eggs and then they go off into the world without any
so there
parents.
was a snake orgy on top of his grave?
Maybe. The one snake that does actually protect its babies and stays with them until they hatch is the cobra.
It's a cobra?
Yeah, cobra.
Oh, that's the...
You don't know what a cobra is?
That's the...
Yes, of course. I think everybody knows the cobra is the... But I learned that from Ricky Tikki Tavi.
I'm just confirming. That's all.
In Ricky Tikki Tavi, that's why he goes to like go kill the eggs, but there's one egg left. And did you ever see that movie?
No, but I know Ricky Tikki Tavi from Lamb Chop's Playing Along. It was a song that they sang.
Yeah, it's this great animated movie. It's a book by I think somebody named like Coupling or something like that.
Like from the Jungle Book?
Kipling. Oh, is that the Jungle Book guy?
Yeah.
Never mind. Then don't believe a word I say. Ricky Tikki Tavi. It's a book, I believe. It's also an animated movie about a mongoose and a white family that lives in India, and these two cobras that want to kill the owner, the white people that live there, and the mongoose. But anyways, yeah.
So also on the tombstone is a woman who is breastfeeding a baby and balancing an egg on the other hand.
Right. That whole...
And she's kind of doing one of these, football hold on the baby.
Yeah.
And also balancing an egg on the
Now, I was hoping that wasn't just an actress and a child actor. I was hoping that it was really, like, her baby. Did the thought not cross your mind?
No. Why are you so weird?
This is like...
So, okay.
This kid's latched onto her titty. I'm like, I hope that's his mama.
What would prompt the kid to stay latched on? It's not sexual for them at this point. And we don't know if it's a boy or a girl. But it's feeding. And then,
Wait, you're telling me that if you give a hungry baby to any woman with breasts, that it wouldn't try to, like, latch onto any breast? Only its mom's breast?
First of all, that was a big baby.
I know. Well, that's why I was worried. I was like, I hope that's his mom.
I'm sure it was a mom. But the baby was feeding, and so that apparently was like a fertility kind of ritual because she wants a second baby.
Gotcha.
And that's what that is supposed to be. But the baby is disrupted from its feeding because then Howie goes across and he like finds like this like altar kind of thing and then moves all the baskets around. Yeah. He's pissed off and he creates like a makeshift crucifix.
Yeah.
And he places it on there.
It looked like to me that they were empty baskets for apples.
Maybe.
That's what it looked like.
You're right.
And then he breaks the wood and creates a cross and puts it on top of that tombstone.
Yeah, saying, your faith is mine now.
Yeah. That's pretty much what he was saying, yeah. And so then he's going to meet the caretaker soon, right? Who then...
Yeah, so he meets the caretaker, the groundskeeper. He's the one who plants the trees on each person's grave. And Howie notices, he goes, what is that tree right there? And he goes, oh, that's a Rowan tree. Oh, well, who's there? Well, Rowan is there. And he's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, Rowan
she's
Morrison.
About 7 months.
And then he's like, well, what's that hanging from the tree? And he's like,
navel.
her navel. What does he call it? Naval passage or something like that? It's the umbilical cord just hanging off the tree.
So does that mean that they saved the umbilical cord all the way?
All the way. Who knows? That's what I was wondering too.
It looked a little juicy, like fresh.
I know, right? It wasn't like dried up and like...
You think they kept it in like formaldehyde or something?
They're pagans. Who knows what they were doing?
They're weird.
Yeah. So now he's at least found out...
And the just laughs at him. Like,
yeah. He then finds out that at least, okay, I think I know that Rowan has been sacrificed or killed. Here's her tomb.
I have a gravesite now.
Yeah. So from there, where does he go?
He goes back to May Morrison's post office / candy shop.
Okay, right.
And when we get there, May is coaxing Myrtle to put a frog in her mouth. Yeah. Because Myrtle has a sore throat and they want to give it to the frog.
Yeah.
So she puts the frog in her mouth, holds it for a few seconds, and then takes it out. And then the frog starts croaking.
Yeah. And she's like, see, he's took your
sore throat away. And Howie looks at them and he goes, you're all raving mad.
Yeah.
In Scottish. And he makes his way to the registrar's office. And that's just the record keeping place where he's trying to look for the record of death for Rowan.
Right, yeah.
And so he meets the clerk there, and he is, of course, threatening the clerk.
Right, she does one of those things again where she's like, you can't see it unless you have permission from the
you need authority. Excuse me. He goes, you need authorization. And he goes, I have it. And he shows her his badge. And she goes, you need authorization from Lord Summerisle. And he goes, I don't need it.
Yeah, right.
And he says he's going to arrest her and take her to mainland jail if she does not let him review the records.
Right. And then she's like, I guess I got no choice. So he goes through the records, does not find anything about Rowan's death. And so then after that, I think he's going to start to make his way up to... Does he try to take off first?
No. So then after that, he goes to the photographer's shop. And the photographer is a photographer/chemist. Yes. And he's the guy who takes all the pictures for the Harvest Festival, for funerals. He's just a photographer.
Right.
But he's a chemist first. And we know that because he has things like a bucket of foreskins.
Oh, right. Yeah. What? Wait, so how does that equal chemists?
I don't know, because he's experimenting. Maybe he's the town doctor.
So they all were circumcised, every one of those little boys, I guess, huh?
Maybe that's why their crops are failing.
He also then tells them that he doesn't keep negatives or duplicates or anything like that. Correct. It's one and done type deal, and the picture's basically
because
lost.
He's asking for the picture of the Harvest Festival from the previous year.
And he's like, it should be on the wall. And he's like, no, it's not on the wall over there. It's gone. He's like, oh, it was broken. I don't know.
So unable to find answers, he succumbs to and visits Lord Summerisle.
He sucks cum? Oh,
yes, he sucks cum. He's a virgin. He doesn't know how to do it. And on his way there, he's getting taken there with like a horse-drawn carriage. And there's, they pass this beautiful orchard, and there are pregnant women just frolicking through the orchards, just super pregnant.
Yeah.
And then he continues moving forward, and there's...
bunch of young girls.
But like there's like a field, and there's these younger women, kind of like teenagers, maybe early, late 20s, early, mid-20s, maybe even teenagers, but they're nude.
They're not fully nude, but they're they're
supposed to be naked, but they're wearing those like flesh color stockings because
it's a little bit noticeable.
It's supposed to be summer, spring, but it was filmed in October, November. Yeah, so it was cold. Yeah, it was supposed to be naked. Okay, it was supposed to be a nude.
There's a bonfire in the middle of them, and then they all start to do this ritual.
Yeah, so they're sitting around there. Miss Rose comes out and does some weird hand gestures, kind of like blessing the ceremony.
Right.
And the girls are jumping over the flames.
Yeah.
The bonfire. And they are singing the following.
Right. Another song.
Yes. Take the flame within you, burn and burn below. Fire seed and fire feed, make the baby grow. Take the flame within you, burn and burn below. Fire seed and fire feed, and make the baby stay. Take the flame within you, burn and burn belong. Fire seed and fire feed, and make the baby strong. Take the flame within you, burn and burn belie. Fire seed and fire feed, and make the baby cry. Take the flame within you, burn and burn begin. Fire seed and fire feed, make the baby king. So really, it's saying, fire, fuck me, have me impregnated. Let's have the baby born. And have the baby succeed.
Yeah.
Birth the fire.
Birth the fire. You know, those also would probably really work in like a metal song.
Yes.
Like, how does it go again?
Take the flame within you. Yeah, exactly. Burn and burn below.
Yeah, exactly. Just some real death metal.
Fire seed, fire feed, make the baby grow.
Exactly. Take the bloody roots. Yeah, no, that's great. You're going to mess up your voice doing that.
I already did.
There's a technique to it so that you don't end up sounding like that guy from Independence Day.
David, why did I just send my mother to Atlanta?
Oh my God.
Okay. At the castle, Howie continues, once he's inside, he continues to look at the naked girls dancing on the fire from the window.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's where Christopher Lee makes his appearance.
Yep, he's like just hiding out in his little chair back there, not making a sound, and all of a sudden he's like, "Hey, you like the sight of those little girls?"
Gotcha, you perv.
Yeah.
And he says, "I hope the sight of our young people is refreshing." And he's like, "No, this is disgusting."
Yeah.
Then he goes, "One should always be open to the regenerative influences."
Yeah.
And he's not wrong.
Right.
Cheers to that one for me. Hold on.
You cheers yourself? Fine, I'll cheers myself too. Cheers.
You should always cheers yourself.
I got my mug now instead of drinking out of that big ass wine glass.
You weren't complaining when it was full of beer.
It looks funny. It was not meant for beer.
It's like a lot of a big old glass of Chardonnay. It's like a sissy wine.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So Howie they make introductions, whatever. Howie wants to exhume the body of Rowan because he is convinced that she's been
buried.
murdered.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he goes and
he's like trying to ask for permission.
yeah, he's asking for permission, but Lord Summerisle goes, "Well, you better do it then."
Yeah, he doesn't even tell him no,
He's like,
really.
go do it. And then he keeps talking about, even after allowing it, Howie then says that he seems unconcerned. Dick, he just told you to go fucking do it.
Yeah, right.
He tells Howie that they're looking, that the girls up there at the fire, he says, well, they're looking for impregnation without intercourse. And talking about how the old gods aren't dead here. And that really pisses off Howie because he's like, what about the one true God?
Right, right. But
And he's like, what about him? He goes, he's dead here.
Yeah, doesn't Christopher Lee make some sort of mention to like a virgin birth? Like how?
Well, yeah, so that's when he said, when he said that there was a virgin birth with Mother Mary. That's
right.
what Howie said. And Lord Summerisle says, well, you mean she got impregnated by a ghost, I believe.
Right.
Kind of making fun of it. But they go through the whole, like a tour of the facility. And he tells a story of his grandfather purchased the island. It was barren. It wouldn't bear fruit. And so they created this strain of apples. And they grew well on the island, and that's how they became, a prosperous community. And that throughout the years, they've been able to realize that it was nature that was helping them, not God helping them. So that's why they're doing things for the sun god or for the goddess of the orchards and such.
Yeah, and then basically it's a safe haven for their pagan rituals, and they're in a they're not hurting anybody. They're off in their own island doing their own thing. They're not trying to convert people. That's the one thing. I mean, I don't mind when people want to have their own practices, but it's like when you start trying to preach to everybody to try to get them to join your cult. Yeah, it's a little too much. Be happy with your own belief, and if you like it, do your things. That's fine, but don't go around and try to convert the rest of the world. If we're all wrong, then let us figure it out on our own. That's all I can say.
Right. Just seriously, do you really want your heaven that crowded? Leave me alone.
Well, hell is going to be one big after party, I'll tell you that.
Hell doesn't exist.
You sure about that?
Yes.
Well, if it does, I'm just saying it's going to be one big after party with like all the cool kids.
So later that night, the body is exhumed.
Oh, right, yeah.
And the body is a hare.
Peter Rabbit.
No, it's a hare. And the groundskeeper is cracking up because he's like, there's a Rowan for you. So Howie makes his way back up to Lord Summerisle's place, and he's there singing another song with Miss Rose, the teacher. And they're doing like this back and forth kind of love kind of song. And he throws the hare at them. And then she's like, what the hell? They go, you found Rowan.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is all part of their plan.
Right, I know. That's what's
That's
even
why he gave
crazier.
Him the permission to do the exhumation.
Yeah, that's what's
right
even
away.
crazier about this whole thing is that they've sought him out. And I know we didn't get there yet, but like it's like how we were talking with high tension, how there's so much riding on the fact that in order to get her to follow and grab this and do that and all that, like, it's a lot, it's a whole big plot that's set up, and they have to make sure that all the pieces fall into place. And if one little thing, like if he would have got pissed and left, they would have been shit out of luck.
They've been controlling him this entire time. So he makes his, he's infuriated. Howie is pissed the fuck off. And he's like, I will demand a full inquiry into this heathen island.
Yeah.
And the Lord says, Lord Christopher Lee says he's glad that Howie will not be in town for the May Day celebration. But he says it in a way of like, well, fine, I'm glad you're leaving. Then you won't be in town for our May Day celebration. And I'm all good with that.
Yeah.
Because Howie gets this weird look in his eye. He's like, right? So, he breaks into the photographer's place and starts searching all the photos, and he finds the Harvest Festival photo that was missing. And he finds a picture of Rowan, and it's her as the Harvest Queen, but all of these empty or near empty baskets, and that's what the harvest is. And that's when he realizes that the harvest failed.
Right, yeah. And he's like, oh, okay, well, this is starting to make sense now.
Mm-hmm. Right. So,
but he thinks that they sacrificed her, even though the body's not in the thing.
Right. So then later on the street, we see that there's some kids marching with this baby doll down the street, just marching, saying, we carry death out of our village. We carry death out of our village. And they're walking right across where Sergeant Howie is researching Mayday.
Right, yeah.
Mayday.
Yeah.
Not Mayday.
Right. Mayday. Did you notice that? I think this already happened when he went back to Rowan's mom, that she had a cake, and it was like a cake of a baby. Mm-hmm. And she was like cutting the cake of a baby into sections and pieces. Right, but she cut out the mids, like she cut a few different pieces, and then she removes a piece. But the section of the cake she took out was like
the torso.
Yeah, or just below that, like
the pelvic area.
The pelvic area of the baby is the piece of cake.
This is what I'm telling you, like that's why it's so brilliant, because everything is planned out and there are clues everywhere. Everything is sexualized. Everything is pointed to, oh, this is so creepy. Something else has to be happening here. Why is she cutting up a baby?
Right.
So yes, so that happened. But back where he was researching, he's researching, and there's this old book, and it's talking about May Day celebrations.
Yeah, so here he finds out some details about it.
And he finds out that it's this huge celebration. It's they sacrifice to the sun god and the goddess of the orchards and the gods of the ocean, so that they can have bountiful harvest. That year.
And they also kind of show that there's a whole dress up and costume thing going on.
So there's 3 main characters to the May Day celebration. Yeah. One of them is a man animal at the head of the procession, and it's this guy.
A manimal.
He's carrying like this costume that's like a horse head. Like imagine like his dick would be as big as a horse head.
Now, I don't know if that was what it was meant to be.
It's on suspenders, but it's covered. It's a huge costume.
Yeah, and you were a little bit. Go ahead.
His part of the parade is the women go in the parade first, and then it's this guy's character who's chasing them with this horse head.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm like, well, this is what it means. Like.
Yeah, but maybe it's just a guy riding on a horse.
No. So anyway.
This guy's got a giant horse.
He's chasing the girls.
I know, on a horse.
Why?
Because people rode horses back then.
But why is he chasing them?
What makes more sense that this horse head was supposed to symbolize his penis? Just because there's so much more, like, penises going on in this movie? Like, I don't think the horse head was his dick. I think that it was a man on top of a fake horse.
But why was he chasing the girls?
Because that's how they would do it back then. Like, nowadays you'd go do it in your car, right?
What?
Yeah, you drive around in your fancy car to go chase the girls.
I need you to list out everywhere that you've been for the past 12 years. The next character is the man-woman who's played by the community leader.
Yeah, of course, Christopher Lee.
Christopher Lee.
The man-woman.
And then the man-fool, who's Punch. And this is the most complicated character, as he is a simpleton and is king of the day.
Yeah, he gets to be king for a day, is what they say.
So after all of this, he hypothesizes that Rowan, she's not dead. She's captured somewhere because she's going to be sacrificed. Yeah. And now he's like, that's why I'm sent over. That's why nobody's acknowledging me, is because they want me to save her.
Yeah, he sees that little drawing of the 6 or 7 swords that like...
Right, so there's also other characters, of course, but also there are 6 swordsmen, and those 6 swords kind of make like this... like
star shape.
Star of David kind of thing.
And then
and that's what they're going to use to execute.
Right, yeah.
Right, and we'll get there when we get to the thing. So, Howie's like, fuck this. I am leaving. I'm going to go bring a whole bunch of people. So he goes to where his plane was on the harbor. And he's getting ferried to his plane.
Dinghied.
He's dinging to his plane. And he tells the harbor master that he's going to come back with more police officers. And when we look on land, there's all of these masked strangers just staring at them, really creepy.
Yeah, they like have like rabbit heads and turtle heads and fish heads or whatever. And they like kind of like come up out of nowhere.
And when his plane won't start, they go down.
They go down,
They hide. And so... the plane won't start, and he's like, I don't know, like, what happened? He's asking the harbor master. He's like, well, if any kids were fucking with that, I would have seen them. Right. So then Howie's like, I'll just find her myself. So he goes back into town, but he's lured to the rehearsal space. And I'm saying that he's lured to the rehearsal space because the guy that's in the horse costume... Yeah. He is making sounds, and Howie like turns to go find him, and he waits just enough, makes another sound until he follows him. He follows him to like the center where they're building the costume still, where they're rehearsing, and then he's peering in, and he sees that everybody's getting ready, and Lord Summerisle is making an announcement. We're going to meet at 3:00 over here by this thing. We're going to walk, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do this, and there's going to be the ultimate sacrifice, like. Making it like idiot proof. Yeah. So this guy knows exactly what they're going to do.
Yeah. Hey, did that one scene happen already where the girl was in the cupboard? No. Oh, that didn't happen yet.
No.
Okay. All right. I didn't want to jump the gun on that. All right.
I know. I'm going to give you one of these. You're on. Because you loved that scene.
It's great. Right.
So after he discovers their plan by them telling him what the plan is and saying, come over here and listen to our plan. Howie runs into Mae Morrison's and lets her know, did you know your daughter is alive? She's going to be sacrificed. And she's like, oh, you're a funny old man. Why haven't you left yet, right?
Right.
And he's like, your daughter is alive. And she tells him to just stay out of it. And he doesn't know what sacrifice is. So he decides to search every house. And I mean, he's going to search every house. As in, when somebody opens the door, he like pushes his way in and pushes aside the woman that's there and goes and searches. And there's, a woman in the bath at one point. There's little kids playing at some point. There's one point where there's this like crate and there's feet sticking out of it. And he's like, oh my God. And he pulls the blanket and it's a fucking clown. He sees from somebody's window that there's this boat off in the distance. So he's like, oh, I'm going to go check that boat. And he goes and he checks that boat. And then also...
he goes to the closet. Wait, what happened to the boat? Nobody's in the boat.
She's not in the boat. He comes back on land, continues searching. He's kind of breaking doors down as he's going through. Like he nobody's home, so he like pushes his way in.
Yeah, and so then he goes and finds this in this one room. He opens up a closet door of some sort, a dresser or something like that, and out falls a body of a young girl.
Of a little girl.
She goes plop, falls straight on the floor, which that's a lot of commitment for somebody to have to do. Yeah, especially knowing that it's a prank. No, yeah, and because here, as soon as she hits, you see her face kind of crack a little bit, and then she starts laughing, and then
how?
Like, and then she runs off with a smirk on her face, and he's like, what the fuck?
Right, because she's like, this fucking idiot, right? That was funny. That was really funny. But, So he searches and searches, but to no avail. He cannot find her.
No.
He makes his way back to the Green Man Inn, and that is, you know, a tavern and whatever, but that's where he spent the night with Willow. He doesn't even say, I want a room. He goes behind the counter, grabs a key, and says, I'm going to take a nap for 30 minutes. I do not want to be disturbed.
Right, yeah. Yeah, and so at that point in time, Willow and her dad are kind of like looking in this room like, is he asleep? I think he's sleeping. And
that's the brilliance of it, because they're saying it. They're having this discussion about being sneaky against him. Yeah. They're having the discussion at his doorway in loud whispers.
And he's awake the whole time, but
of course he's awake. He just went to bed.
He doesn't think that they know.
And they're saying, and Willow and the dad, they're talking about they have something that's going to put him to sleep for days. Like, he'll miss the festival. He won't be a problem for us. Just miss the festival. Just days of sleeping.
Yeah.
And then they go, and Willow puts like a candle at his bed, and then as she's, on his nightstand, and then she leaves the room and she goes, my little sergeant, you're going to sleep for a while now, and leaves. And that's when the sergeant kind of peeks over, opens his eyes, and it's a hand,
fucking hand
on fire. Like, it's
like the fingers are
candles.
The candles.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so fucking brilliant, because it's like the most outlandish thing. It's probably not even something that they do. They just thought, this is stupid enough.
It's so stupid he'll believe it.
He's going to believe it. And so
he knocks it over and starts putting out the flames and shit.
Yep. And that's when we see Willow is like, well, I'm going to go to the festival. And the dad's like, well, I'm going to get dressed, because he's the one that's going to be dressed as
the manful.
Punch. The manful.
That's his name? Punch.
So, of course, what happens is he's changing, and the sergeant comes up behind Mr. McGregor and punches him, hits him in the back with something, knocks him out.
Yeah, it was something like heavy. I want to say it was like a
candlestick or something. But he steals his costume and puts it on, and he steals his costume.
Yep. And so then he's dressed up as the manful. And
it's a celebration.
And he joins the parade.
That's right.
And so we start to see Christopher Lee in his man-woman outfit.
I know, but he's so cute. He's even wearing Chucks.
I don't know if they're Chucks. I think they're Keds. But they were definitely like old school sneakers. But he's like prancing.
He's skipping through the road.
He's like, he's got his long hair.
Right, and Punch is there. Punch is at this point now Howie. And he's they're skipping down the road because they're coming around the road, around this sacred road, and they're going up to like this mini Stonehenge.
Yeah.
And when they get in there, they kind of just all spread out. Excuse me. They all spread out, and then the 6 swordsmen create that Star of David in the center, because there's this like little altar, so to speak, on the floor. And everybody has to pass through, put their heads in through that little bit.
Yeah, and they lower the swords.
And then if they don't slice their heads off, they're good.
Yeah, it's like a game they're playing. Mm-hmm. So basically, one by one, each person's going through. And then eventually, Christopher Lee's character tells the other guy, come on, you got to do it too. Yeah, you got to do it. He's like, it's part of the game. We play whatever. So he goes in, and then he puts his head in there. He doesn't get his head chopped off, and then a few more people pass
later,
through.
It's a hair. Somebody dressed in a hair costume.
Yeah,
and the swords drop, and the music stops,
and
they slice the head off.
And then all of a sudden you see the body drop, and they're like, oh! But then it's another little girl playing another little joke, and
Holly.
She throws off this fake apparatus up top, which was like fake head,
and they all laugh, and they're like, oh, this is hilarious, let's go to the beach.
Yeah, let's go to the beach. Yeah.
And so they go to the beach, and they get these big old barrels of ale, and they puncture them, and they roll them into the ocean.
Yeah, such a waste.
And I'm sure it probably wasn't ale. Don't feel bad. Probably more water.
Just
and they sacrifice it to the ocean.
Yeah. All right. They dump the big barrel of ale into the ocean. And then pretty soon after that, we're going to see Rowan Morrison makes her first appearance in the movie. And his eyes light up. He's like, whoa, I knew it.
Well, after they threw the ale in, the Lord Summerisle says, and for those who command the fruits of the earth, a more dreadful sacrifice. And the camera pans over to the top of the mountain that's just, I guess the top of the cliffs above the beach. And there's Rowan. And that's when Punch is like, I'm saving her. And nobody chases him. Nobody follows him. But he just runs over to her. And he looks like he's bouncing like on moon shoes because of the costume. And it's jingling, jangling because it's got bells on it. And he goes and he like, does he punch somebody out?
I think he does. I think he knocks somebody out.
He knocks somebody out and then he unties her and then they run into the cave.
Yeah, she tells him, follow me, follow me.
Do you know what they're going to do to me?
Yeah.
You know what they're going to do to me? Help me. I don't want to be here.
Yeah.
And so they run into the cave to disappear. And he's trying all his tactics to kind of get rid of the, he gets her crown and throws it on the opposite direction where they're going. And the only way to escape is to go up through this narrow exit up from the cave, like just going completely like up.
Right.
And they get out and they make it safe and they look. And Rowan is kind of really happy. Yeah. Because she sees Lord Summerisle. He sees Willow.
They pop out on the other side and they're just sitting there like they expected him to go.
But their makeup is gone. Their costume's
gone.
Absolutely.
Yep. Yeah. And then he does a motion to Rowan like Christopher Lee does.
She goes,
like,
did I do good? Did I do good?
She runs up to him.
And then she gets to go to her mom.
Yep. And her mom takes her away and is all happy. And then in a nutshell, they're like, well, Mr. Howie, or whatever your name is, like
Sergeant Howie.
You thought that you were here to do this, but guess what? We were seeking you out the whole time because you are our perfect human, right? Because they start to talk about like it's either you sacrifice an animal or you sacrifice a child of some sort, or you find the perfect adult.
That's right. So he says, "Welcome, fool. You have come under your own free will," which he had. You will undergo death and rebirth, right?
Although you're not the one who's going to be rebirthed.
Right. They said, we control your every thought and action since you've been here. Yeah. The right kind of adult is one that came of his own free will, has the power of a king, which he has as a police sergeant. I lost my place.
Was a virgin.
Is a virgin and is a fool.
Right, and he was the fool because who
else would have chosen to dress up
as
like
the king for a day?
Yeah. Yeah.
But a fool.
She
says it in a nice way. Like, who goes
defeated and just defeated. He just goes, oh, and just starts walking away like they're going to just let him leave. Yeah. He just starts walking away. And that big guy that was playing the horseman.
Yeah, who was humping Willow in the beginning.
Yeah, he just picks him up.
Yeah, he picks him up.
He starts fighting him. And then so he says, you're going to go into death, rebirth. They strip him, they clean him, they anoint him, and they dress him.
Yeah, he doesn't really put up much of a fight. He's just like, oh, okay, here's my hands, clean me. They put the robe on him. They tie the belt around him. So he's like a little like, He
says, Lord Summerisle says, it is time to keep your appointment with the Wicker Man.
With the Wicker Man, yeah.
That's right. And they walk him up further up the mountain, and there's this huge effigy, this huge
Burning
man figure made out of sticks and bundles of whatever, tinder. And inside, there's an opening, like, what joke do you want to make?
No.
Okay. Inside.
I'll keep that one to myself.
Inside. I just saw you like itching to interrupt me.
You said Tinder. I was going to make a dating app joke, but apparently that was not going to go over well.
No. So in the torso area, there was an opening. But like the head, the arms, the legs, there were different compartments where there were other animals.
Filled with animals.
Yeah, but now, no animals were actually used that were actually harmed during this part of the scene.
Well, I hope not.
So the animals, are there, and as soon as Sergeant Howie sees it, his reaction is the real reaction because he absolutely did not see that until that scene.
Oh, really?
He was really freaked the fuck out. So his reaction of, oh, Jesus God, was his actual reaction.
That's always cool when a director or somebody keeps a little
choice. That was the actor's choice. Oh, he said every time they try to show him, he's like, no, I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it.
Okay. So that way he had his real reaction. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep. And that was really like, you felt that. You were like, oh my God, this is terrifying. Like, what would you do in that situation? People are just ushering you into, be locked up into this thing with all these animals.
Do you know, this is something that's off topic, but has to do with the thing. It's a Sopranos reference real quick. You know, do you remember the episode where Christopher and Polly get lost in
the snow?
In the snow, right?
No, I don't remember that.
So you know, when they finally get through to Tony and he takes Bobby to go, and then Bobby comes with his full like hunting gear on, and Tony just starts cracking up, right? In the scene, the real scene when it was being filmed, to surprise James Gandolfini, they had Bobby or whoever it was dressed up in like a bear costume. But like they didn't tell him. So when he comes around the corner, that reaction of Tony laughing was because he saw him in a bear costume. Like, what the fuck is this?
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. Anyways.
I love that show. Okay. Where the fuck were we?
Well, we were right at the fact that he was surprised with his reaction.
Yeah, so he was just taken like just completely by surprise, and it's really intimidating. Can you imagine being in a space where you know you're fucking done and there's no end in sight, no escape, no light at the end of the tunnel that's not overshadowed by somebody's silhouette with a hatchet. Yeah,
and I mean, just to see a gigantic, you know, wooden figurine like that, you know that they're gonna light on fire, and there's animals stuck inside.
Well, so he's carried into like. He's like thrown over somebody's shoulder. And
the big guy, that same big guy.
And carried into the belly of the beast, so to speak, and locked in there.
Yeah,
props and just above him.
Sorry, I was just going to say props to that big guy, too, because he literally had to carry a man on his shoulder up a ladder and put him inside the
like, I had a hard time coming up those stairs right now.
I know. I was like, whoa. You know, he's gigantic guy. I mean, there was once before when he threw him over his shoulder, they were on the side of a mountain and like, you know, it's steep.
Yeah.
And for a second there, Howie's, you know, Sergeant Howie rolls down a little bit and then the big guy gets him. I just was like, wow, because the guy was big, but he also wasn't like
strong.
Well, yes, he was big and he's strong, but he also doesn't look like he's got the best balance in the world.
Jiggly.
Yeah, so going up the stairs with a man on his shoulder looked like it was a little difficult.
Right. So he's in there and he's locked. And in filming the scene, the goat that's right above him got so scared that it actually peed on him.
I'm sure it did.
Oh my gosh. So they start lighting everything, and he starts, and you know, this whole time how Sergeant Howie's saying, think what you're doing, and at one point before they put him in there, he starts telling the villagers, if you sacrifice me and your harvest fails again, next time they're going to sacrifice you, Lord Summerisle, because you'll need the next level up. He's like, no, it's not going to fail.
Right, it's not going to fail.
He's like, I'm certain.
Yeah.
I'm certain.
Yep. He's like, my granddaddy and my daddy, and we all did this. And
my daddy and... You're stupid. You're really dumb.
Bang, bang.
So, and once he's locked in, the people are chanting and they're praying. And then Howie preaches the word of the Lord. And he's saying that I am going to be resurrected, not reincarnated.
Yeah.
I am a Christian man. But they light the wicker man and they start to sing. And they sing, summer is so coming in loudly, I don't know.
Don't worry about that. I'll tell you one thing I noticed in that
scene,
though.
But they're doing this lot of swaying and really like singing and chanting, and it's just, it feels really fun. Yeah. But then you hear when finally Howie starts screaming and he starts singing about, you know, his faith and the animals are shrieking and because it's set on fire at this point.
Yeah.
And the animals for that scene, they had removed them.
So
Even though the actress, Britt Ekland, she said that animals were killed there. They weren't killed in that scene because they specifically used figures. Animals did die during the scene, but those are mostly for dinner purposes.
Okay. Anyways, that's one thing I did forget about the animals for a second. One thing that I noticed in that scene when the flames were creeping up, there was a actor, maybe it was Edward Woodward still, but there was a human being that's still inside when the flames are about halfway up that thing. Because I saw this shot where the flames were underneath where he would have been. Mm-hmm. They were pretty thick, but climbing, and you could see somebody inside still moving slightly. Mm. So I'm pretty sure they let him sit there for as long as they could, and they're like, all right, get him out. And then, because then the flames start going up higher and higher and start burning the midsection. Obviously, by that time, I'm sure they took everybody out.
Because he made movies afterwards.
But I'm just saying that it was a part where I was like, oh my God, there's somebody that's still in there. And the flames were really close.
What if they just had a platform directly behind the Wicker Man, and then you can see through?
Maybe not. But it was 73, you know. Sometimes they push the limits. Let's just move on from that.
And the animals are freaking out, and that is a sound that you don't forget because they sound like they were really scared.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Maybe that she wasn't totally wrong.
What if? So wouldn't he have died from smoke inhalation before he died of being charred?
It were outside. If it was an inside fire, maybe.
But it was all climbing, and you saw the smoke there.
Yeah, it could possibly, but I mean, I'm just saying, It could possibly happen for sure. But I'm just, being that they're outside and there is fresh air, there's also a possibility that...
and then there's also shock.
Yeah, well,
and that's how the movie ends.
Yeah, there's a beautiful scene of the sunset as the head of the Wicker Man burns and falls out of frame. And that's the end of the movie.
That's the end of the movie.
And it was fabulous.
It was fucking amazing. And
I mean, to time that shot also, sorry to cut you off, but they had to catch it with the sunset and everything. It was like something they had to frame it right and get ready. It was, again, 1973.
I have problems taking good pictures on my phone now.
I know. They put a lot of effort into making sure they got the right shots.
That's right.
If they missed it, they would have to wait till tomorrow, build a goddamn another Burning Man.
The Burning Man.
And then do it again. And I don't think that's what they did. I think they timed it right. But great movie.
That was a great movie. In watching Midsummer, I definitely was like, no, this is just Wicker Man.
Yeah, we'll have to do an episode on Midsommar or Samar, whatever they call it. It was a good movie, but they definitely had...
It was a very pretty movie.
Yeah, they definitely must have taken a page or two out of the Wicker Man's handbook.
They definitely did, not must have.
Well, must is... what? Must... I guess. I get what you're saying. My English is technically off a little bit. Sorry.
Is 2 beers in?
1.5. Not 2, 1.5.
Plus, you drank all my wine.
No, I didn't. I just come up and have a swig every once in a while.
All right. Well, so that's it.
Yes. That was it. I think this was a good episode. I think this was a great movie. It's a good start again to the new year. I'm looking forward to some of these other ones. And I think we just need to keep this fun train rolling.
Okay.
Right? Everybody on board? All aboard!
Oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. I'm so sorry.
She's not. You're not. I know you're not. So.
All right, well, that's it for us today. Thank you for stopping by. Do us a favor and hit subscribe if you have not done so yet.
Yep, turn on those notifications and whatever you got to do to stay up close and personal with us.
That's right.
Yeah.
And if you are an audio listener, please make sure that you give us a rating. That is very important to us because at some point we'd like to not be completely out of pocket here. Check us out on social media, mostly Instagram. We're at I_scream_parlor. Our website is icecreampodcast.com, and there you can get links to everything that we talk about, everything that we do, and all of our social media, as well as our Patreon. You can email us directly at icecreamparlor.podcast@gmail.com or click on the link on the site.
Yes, and we've been watching the numbers go up. We've been getting a lot more views and a lot more subscribers, so please give us some comments and some feedback and let us know what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong, and, be a part of our community. It would be nice to hear from some people from time to time, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Your feedback's always welcome here. Give us movies to add to our list. You can comment them or you can just submit new movies.
Did you like our opinions? Did you like the movie? What did you think? Let us know.
That's right. And thanks again to Larry Block for coming in last episode and really just giving us a little bit more confidence, and all of the support that he's been giving us since then has been great.
Yes.
If you want to be a guest on the show, just reach out.
Yeah, exactly.
What is it? icecreamparlor.podcast@gmail.com.
Yeah.
All right, that's it for us today. Take care.
And see you next time.
Okay, bye.